sleek-looking chariot that Barney tunes up is the famed 999, the racing job that Henry Ford built back in 1902, and in which Berney Oldfield climbed to the unheard-of speed of 60 miles an hour. And so came into existence the phrase mile a minute. And so Barney looked when he slid into the cockpit, cigar in his mouth, stepped on the gas, and roared away. It was in 1919, 20 years ago, that a young southpaw named George Herman Ruth was taking his turn on the mound for the Boston Red Sox, and doing all right. He had a fast breaking curve and plenty of zip, but he had something else. A pair of hands and a flair for knocking the apple out of the ball yard. So the Red Sox lost a pitcher and gained an outfielder, and baseball's immortal king of SWAT is on his way. For by 1920, the Bambino has transferred his allegiance to the New York Yankees. By 1926, the Yankees could well boast that they possessed the mightiest man in baseball. For the Babe that year establishes no less than 10 new World Series records, among them a par-shattering mark of 3 home runs in a single series game. The series, incidentally, being the St. Louis Cardinals-Yankee affair that St. Louis won in 7 games. Norwegian by birth, Notre Dame by adoption, the figure of Knut Rockne assumes greater stature with each passing year. In football, a master strategist, a dynamo force, yet loved to a point of worship by those whom he taught.
I don't want spring football unless you do. Now, all those in favor of coming out for spring football, those who insist on having football, insist on having Hunk and Shav and Vadish and I take charge of this spring, will all signify by saying aye.
At Ebbetsfield, Brooklyn, against the Army in 1923, 4 horsemen running wild through the cadet defenses. There's Crowley on a rampage. The Irish win 13-0. Then in 1930, in what has come to be known as the year of Notre Dame's greatest team, Rockne's watchword was always block out your man. O'Connor finds the theory working to perfection as he gallops 80 yards to Notre Dame's 19th consecutive victory. Again against the Army, Jack Elder intercepts an Army touchdown pass on his own 2-yard line, and the camera captures one of its treasured shots as Elder outraces the entire Army team to score the second period touchdown, the only score of the game. Destiny's favored thoroughbred, a war baby, foaled in 1917, and as would naturally attend a fellow born in such troubled times, the racing career of Big Red was a span of 2 crowded years, for it was after his campaign as a 3-year-old that Man o' War was retired to the stud, leaving behind him a glorious record of 20 victories in 21 starts. Today, amid the clover and Kentucky bluegrass of faraway farm, he whiles away the hours, carefree and contented in the twilight of his life, for Man o' War is now an old man, 22 years old. And it began nearly 20 years ago, a broiling summer afternoon at Toledo, July 4th, 1919. Jess Willard, within 4 rounds, a helpless, battered hulk, Dempsey, had won the crown. But 7 years later, we find him here at Hendersonville, North Carolina. It's April 1926. 2 months from now, he climbs through the ropes at Philadelphia to have it out with Tunney. Well, from here on, you know the old story. The Manassas Mauler has been idle since the night he flattened Purple 3 years ago. Too long. Tunney takes him, not once, but twice. And yet, how amazing. Today, 20 years later, Dempsey is still the hero of the crowds, the idol of the kids. For a little lady making her first screen appearance, I'm sure you'll agree that even here we may see signs of the world's brightest star ascending. For this is a January day in Oslo, Norway, back in 1925. Sonja is all of 12 years old, but she's just won the figure skating championship of Scandinavia. The following year, she places second in the world competition at Stockholm, Sweden. But from then on, and for the next decade, her crown glitters with the jewels of 10 world championships and 3 Olympic titles. And so she reigns as the world's queen of the ice, until our own 20th Century Fox claims her for the silver screen.